Mo Yeon is shocked by Shi Jin's modest admission that he still misses her despite his best efforts after tending to his shoulder wound. Regardless of what he's doing, she is constantly on his mind. The way he says it, so composed and direct, is so surprisingly real that it sounds deeply real rather than ominous or domineering. He merely asks her to think about it, which is more than Shi Jin was expecting from him. Mo Yeon, her head racing with feelings, takes up a cell phone, while the moment lingers. Shi Jin observes when she calls the spouse of team leader Go. Mo Yeon delivers Go's last words in a shaking voice, expressing his sense of serenity at having supported his family and sent his children to college. He thinks back to a marriage in which they mainly stared at each other's photos, fate now cemented by his untimely passing. His final request to his wife is to let go of his grief quickly and not to spend too much time in sorrow. Daniel and Yewa are having a fun moment in the meantime. She brings up his pledge to do an interview, but ever the charmer, Daniel says he's keeping his good looks to himself and his wife only. As the medical team goes by, they see Daniel tinkering with a truck. Chi-hoon knows him as the well-known Daniel, a man who devotes his life to voluntary work abroad despite hailing from an affluent Canadian-Korean family. His selflessness impresses Min-ji. But Dr. Song jokes that only a wealthy fool would select such a life. Following the call, Mo Yeon retreats into the shadows, her weariness and sorrow weighing heavily on her. Shi Jin follows her outside and consoles her quietly while she looks for a space to be with her loss. He implies that seeking a quiet place is often a guy's notion while grinning playfully. He invites her to look up, complimenting her strength. Mo Yeon is struck by the devastating contrast as she looks up at the sky. How can the sky be so lovely when the land below is in ruins? Supervisor for not producing the gems. In an attempt to make his point more forcefully, Argus grants the manager until tomorrow night, despite his pleading that they are stuck in the underground office. The scene changes to the underground workplace, where a teenage employee is barely hanging on. He recognizes that wearing a safety helmet is probably the reason he is still alive after remembering team leader Go's suggestion. The rescue crews advance toward the office while utilizing cranes to destroy the solar tower of the power plant. Dae-young, however, doesn't give up even after the manager writes out the possibility of survivors, stating that the medical staff should make the final decision. Abruptly, there is a seismic aftershock, causes glass to break and the floor to tremble. Chi-hoon rushes to free the trapped worker, but he has to back up after injuring his shoulder with a falling boulder. Despite being a mess outside, he is able to tell Sergeant Choi that someone is still alive within. Myung-ju interrupts Dae-young as he attempts to work on anything else after observing his damaged hand and insisting on bandaging it first. Now that he is further down the basement, the imprisoned worker hears Dae-young's voice and they establish contact. To ensure that there are no mistakes made during the rescue effort, Mo Yeon, ever the professional, writes down Korean names for Shi Jin to take with him. But Shi Jin taunts that since he went to West Point, he doesn't need the translations. Even though he jokes about a lot, Mo Yeon is serious and doesn't take any chances. The sly, "See you in a bit," Shi Jin leaves, after promising to speak with her in English when he gets back. Upon reaching the stranded worker, Dae-young and Shi Jin discover that he is in comparatively decent health. The employee asks Shi Jin for food, complaining that Dae-young only offered him water. They begin to lift the slab that is pinning his leg with significant effort. However, while Shi Jin notifies Mo Yeon by radio, the worker experiences an allergic response that causes his throat to swell and become itching. Mo Yeon sends it with Dae-young and swiftly gives the medication to combat the allergy. There's more trembling, this time not from an aftershock, but from the manager using the crane carelessly to delve into the office. Debris drops, the place trembles, and Shi Jin covers the worker. Enraged, Dae-young charges over and demands that the manager be placed under arrest, threatening to murder him should anything happen to the worker who is confined. As Mo Yeon's concern grows, Myung-ju grudgingly sends Dae-young back inside. Shi Jin, who appears to be unconscious, is called to by Min-jae, the employee inside. Shi Jin displays his bloodied arm and jokes that he's not a ahjushi when he stirs. But Min-jae was able to extricate his leg because the vibrations displaced the slab sufficiently. But now that the entry is shut, they are both stuck. When Shi Jin tries to radio out, nothing is received. Joking that Mo Yeon surely regrets not accepting him immediately, he says that she must be worried ill outside. In case only Min-jae notices, he writes Min-jae's name on his arm. Dae-young, in a different part of the camp, attempts to keep up his tough exterior while Myung-ju teases him. She pouts, but he carries out his rounds with a cool demeanor, leaving her angry. While this is going on, Shi Jin hangs out with Daniel and compliments him on the music. Shi Jin can't help but chuckle as Mo Yeon hastily reaches for her phone, stop the most embarrassing public declaration of her life. She knows that even in the middle of stress, there are still moments that manage to inject a little humor.